Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV and another edition of our online interview series. We want to get an update from Dr. Keith Barron, who's the CEO of Aurania Resources. Hey, Keith, good morning to Ecuador. How are you?
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias. Great to see you. Hope you're fine. All good?
Very good. Thank you.
Super. Perfect. All right. Before we start with your terrific projects and company, I think we should talk about Ecuador itself shortly because you have upcoming elections. That's one thing which is really important. And secondly, also, I found in one of your news lately that the Ecuadorian government adopted a legislation for mineral concession holders for government-related delays. And this is extending the initial exploration phase. Why is that important? Is Aurania affected on that? And please comment on the upcoming election.
Well, firstly, there was a meeting held by a number of the players, a number of the exploration companies here in Ecuador, the foreign companies, with the Minister of Non-Renewable Resources, who runs the mines ministry. And, you know, at the end of this year, a lot of concessions were staked, as were ours, 4 years ago. In March of this year, in 2021, we would have been facing a situation where the concessions would have moved into advanced exploration, and we would have been required to pay double on the patents. And some of the companies pointed out, look, you know, we've been waiting for water permits so that we can do our drilling. In some cases, 2 years or even longer. And a few of the companies said, look, you know, if you enforce this rule, we're going to walk. We're going to leave Ecuador. And the government said, no, for God's sake, don't do that. And so they've given an extension to all of the companies working here. And it is dependent, the time of the extension is dependent on when the companies applied for various things, like with the water board, Sinagua. Sinagua just simply has not been able to get their act together. They've actually cut back their staff by half. It's a mess. And so they said, look, you know, we're not going to force the companies to go into advanced exploration. We're going to give everyone anywhere from 1 to another 3 years on the concessions before they go to advanced exploration. What that means for Aurania is that we can keep the entire package intact for another year. And with a new CSR person in charge, corporate social responsibility, we're making great strides with the communities. We're opening up a lot of new areas where we've never been before. We've got teams in the field right now in places where we've never been to before. And this is very, very important for us because we are going to get the job finished. The initial exploration and all of the concessions, it's just a matter of time now. But they're giving us an extra up to 3 years. It depends on where the concessions are and which ones they are.
Cool. Okay, let's talk about Zenken N2 and N3. 20th January, you published a significant copper mineralization was intersected in the last drill holes, last 3 drill holes, but no economic grades. And you also did a MMT survey, and think it has identified the possible core of the IOCG system related to the area you drilled at Zenken N2 and N3. What does it mean? What is going on with those targets?
Well, in the drill core, now the earliest holes that we did on the Zenken target had nothing in them at all. But in the last 3 holes, we could see visible copper, native copper. So you see little flecks of copper, well, you know, up to maybe 3, 4, 5 millimeters in size, little round pieces in the drill core, and they're scattered all the way through it. However, collectively, they don't represent an economic concentration. It is very interesting that they're there, of course, and there's got to be a reason for it. There's copper in the area, and copper potentially to the south in one of the larger targets. Now, to our surprise, when we did the MMT survey, and it's not finished yet, we've only done kind of an initial pass on it. There's been one target show up to the north, which was not a magnetic target, and it seems to be very, very conductive at depth, so potentially sulfides there in a sulfide concentration. And then something which is very big off to the west, which is like 3 kilometers in diameter. I don't think that is a porphyry system, but it could be the elusive copper and silver in sediments below the zone of oxidation. So rather than have the copper carbonates like malachite and azurite that we see on surface, the nice green stuff that people have seen on our website, at depth you'd have things like bornite and chalcopyrite, which are copper sulfides, and they're very, very conductive. There's obviously something there that's causing it. It's in the subsurface. It does not come to the surface, and we have to punch some holes in it to see.
And you're starting this quite soon then to punch some holes in?
Well, right on the edge of that, we have something which is very intriguing. This was found some time ago. This is the N1 breccia. And we find outcrops on the surface. They're running up to 4 or 5% copper on the surface. And they're made up of fragments. And some of these fragments have porphyry in them. So, and this is on the edge of that large anomaly. It's on the edge. And there's got to be something driving the breccias and driving them. This is what we call a transported breccia, meaning that the fragments have been transported some unknown distance vertically, maybe as much as 1 kilometer from something that's mineralized deeper down. It's a very positive guide. There's obviously copper in the system there, and that's going to be very, very intriguing, very interesting for us, because that's the next target for scout drilling.
Okay, super. Maybe some words on Senken West, because this is a new target area.
Yeah, Senken West is this big thing, this big conductive zone that looks like it may be even like a sheet. And I think that this could be something like copper and silver in sediments. We really don't know at this stage. It just does not come to surface. But again, it's an obvious target, and it's got to be drilled.
Okay, cool. Let's switch to Yowie shortly, because I saw also that you want to start some scout drilling there, and it looks like the MMT showed some great geological environment for porphyry and epithermal mineralization. So what's the status there?
Well, the MMT is showing conductor there at depth. It does not come to surface. We don't find evidence of a porphyry or conductor on the surface. But what we do find in the Yowie area, as a lot of people know, are sinters. So we're finding hot spring type deposits at the old, what we call the paleo surface. It's the old land surface. Something is driving this at depth. There's something that's driving a convective cell, and it's producing those hot springs. It has to be a heat source. And we get these fantastic levels of pathfinder elements in the soils and in the rocks at the surface at these in the Yowie area, also at Crunchy Hill, and even further afield at La Torre. So there's got to be, these things just don't happen. There is something that's responsible for driving this system. We believe it's a porphyry in this case, driving the whole convective system from depth. It's hot rocks, and it's something that is extremely conductive in the subsurface. It is cylindrical. It looks like a porphyry, and it's capped by a resistive zone, which we think potentially is a zone of silica flooding and maybe that's where the gold is being captured and being held.
Mm-hmm.
So, this has really, really jumped up in priority for us. And, in the past drilling that we did, we drilled down to a true depth of about 420 meters below the surface. But it was not exactly in the right spot. It was off the northwest shoulder of the anomaly. We didn't know the anomaly was there. And, MMT wasn't available to us when we drilled Yowie. Simply, we didn't drill deep enough to have hit it anyway. So it's a minimum of 500 meters down. That's, we want to bring in a larger drill with the capability of hitting this thing and going down potentially to 1,000 meters.
Okay, super. So that means with this MMT survey, if I simplify that, you are like X-raying the mineralization body, right? That you can look deeper into the soil.
Yeah, that's exactly the situation. Now, a lot of people aren't familiar with MMT, but they're familiar with the earlier version of this, which is called ZTEM or ZTEM. And that's a technique that's been used for a number of years and has made some really notable porphyry copper discoveries around the world. One discovery in British Columbia was made last year in an area where 9 companies, going back to 1969, had drilled the area, including RTZ, and not come up with the goodie zone. And it's simply because the technique showed a very, very big conductor at depth, but it was below the level that any other company had drilled in that area before. And these guys hit the jackpot, and since then, one of the majors has already come in and taken a piece of them.
Okay, cool. So this is, let's say, a little bit targeting what you have then also for your work you are doing, because it looks to me a little bit like that you are now assembling and doing the homework to be ready to find the big thing. Can I say it like that?
That's exactly what we're doing. Okay. And we're doing it on many fronts. And, this technique is working so well. I want to extend it and do some more coverage and cover some more potential targets. And, there are even some areas that we haven't talked about before. We haven't talked about in press releases where we have anomalous elements. And again, something's causing this. And we really do think that we have potentially a field of porphyries here. Certainly that's the case to the south, and the operators to the south of our concessions continue to find a porphyry after porphyry after porphyry. And, there are now 9 advanced projects to the south of us, 9 of them. Right?
That's a lot.
And, yeah. And, if you were to take our area and overlap it on the area to the south, we would have 9 advanced projects, including Fruta del Norte. I'm not saying today that we have another Fruta del Norte, but I'm hopeful, and certainly we've got a lot of indications of epithermal type mineralization, including veining that we've seen. So we have a lot of things to track down. As I've said before, a lot of the heavy lifting has already been done in this project, and we're at the drill stage now. And this is the very exciting stage. There's going to be, obviously, this is exploration. This is not slam dunk time. Because we just don't know what the good Lord has put under the ground. But if I was a betting man, and I am, and I'm also the largest shareholder in Aurania, I believe that this is a fantastic setup for success, because rather than have just one target or 2 targets that we're pinning all of our hopes on, we have multiple things, and things that are coming up in priority all the time. New stuff. It's really a fantastic project.
Fantastic, great. So it looks to me a little bit like it's like with Fruta del Norte. First you got to find it, then you can mine it. Very simple.
Well, yeah, and Fruta del Norte, a lot of people don't know But when Aurelian was sold to Kinross, we had not just Fruta del Norte, but we had 12 porphyry copper type targets, 2 of which we had drilled and proven they were porphyry copper. And we had multiple epithermal gold targets as well. Now, what has happened, Lundin Gold has done a joint venture with Newcrest Mining on those outer targets outside of Fruta del Norte. And there are 3 advanced projects there, 3 of them, 1 gold and 2 copper. And, you know, if we had done on the 94,000 hectares spin outs or different JVs with various companies, instead of letting the whole thing go to one entity and then goodbye, Ecuador, we're out, we would have given the shareholders several bites of the apple. And this is what I intend to do corporately, because we have such a large land position, many different types of commodities here, many styles of mineralization, and a lot of optionality.
Super, fantastic. Sounds like a great game plan, I would say. Last question. We have spoken now the last 19 minutes about copper and gold, but you have also with Tiria-Shimpia, you have silver, zinc, lead systems there. So you want to scout drill that also? Maybe some words on that?
Well, this is shaping up as a very interesting target because, you know, when the geologists came back from the field, when the initial work was done, and, you know, in our press releases, you'll see some of these images. It looked like it was a kind of a linear number of veins, looked like a vein swarm of lead, zinc, silver veins, high grade, some of them outcropping. You know, we could take samples off the surface. What we've since found is that some of these zones are actually not vein related. They're in sediments, and they're at the tops of hills, at the ridges of hills where erosion has cut down through the sedimentary contacts and exposed mineralization. But the mineralization seems to be replacing limestone, and that is a type of deposit called a mantos. Mantos is the Spanish word for cloak, and it's kind of a flat-lying thing. So what we're now looking at here is some vertical feeders and then a flat-lying system on top of that. We don't really know how far it extends, but we've had, just in the last couple of weeks, we've been doing a tremendous amount of geological compilation. We've had all the crews who worked on this target. It's 15 kilometers long. It's a huge target. We've had multiple geologists working on it and putting it all together to kind of synthesize what it is. So you'll see some press on this soon, and you know, and you'll see how our thinking is developing.
Super, perfect. Keith, thank you very much. It was a great update on the company and on your fantastic, projects, I would call it. Keep fingers crossed, and I really look forward to a lot of news flow this year.
Great. Super. Yes, there's going to be a lot of stuff.
Great, and I have a good feeling that we talk very soon.
Okay.
Super. Thank you very much, Keith. All the best. Great.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Dr. Keith Barron, the CEO of Aurania Resources. And you heard that the company is full on track. Scout drilling is moving forward. They have a ton of projects, a ton of optionalities. And also what I like is the idea, maybe when successful with one or the other project, to spin something out, to make sure you bring a big partner in. This is great for the shareholders, but also great for the company. And also I think with the political development, it looks quite good. And with the prolongation to be an exploration company, it's also fine. They save a lot of money, which can then go into the ground instead to the government. So I would suggest you check out the company. It is a really great company with Dr. Keith Barron as the main shareholder with over 50%. And so the company is in really good shape. Thanks a lot for watching us, and bye-bye from Switzerland.